we have from Stellantis sales figures for the second quarter for 2024 sales results. Now we're going to get into this right here. Reason why is because we have some highlights from Stellantis. And when we look at these highlights, it actually looks really, really good. But then we come down to the bottom here and we see total sales went down 21%. But when we look at the official chart here, for every brand, for every model, things went down more than 21%. So we're going to go over this and we're going to go over all the sales figures and what's going on here with Stellantis. This is going to be one of those longer videos. It's going to be a real deep dive on the sales. So stay tuned. Get your snacks ready. Let's get right into this stuff. First off, some second quarter highlights here. Stellantis is posting a 4% quarter-over-quarter growth with a quarter to 2024 total U.S. sales decrease 21% over year. So although we have some growth within the quarter, we are down 21%, which is not good at all. As for Jeep Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer, total sales increased 107% and 24% year-over-year. So that 107% is for the quarter from last year to this year. Respectively, the Jeep brand did see retail sales of the Wrangler, Grand Cherokee, and the Compass increase 24%, 12%, and 15% respectively with quarter two over quarter one in 2024. So that's really good because some of the legacy models that we've had here for a while, the more affordable models and the more mainstream models, those are getting some sales increases as well. Ram as a brand, they saw a growth of 11% total sales in quarter two over quarter one in 2024. As for the commercial fleet, they saw increased sales over quarter two versus in quarter one of 2024 over 47%. So really, really big thing for Ram. Those fleet sales are doing really, really well. As for the Dodge brand, total sales increased 16% in quarter two over quarter one. Charger, Challenger, Durango are up 52, 18, and 18% respectively for that same time period. Obviously, keep in mind too, a lot of that is going to be doing, in part so because, they will be switching over to electrification. So as we do know, for things like the Charger and the Challenger, this is essentially this is it. This is the last, this is the final bell for internal combustion. So obviously those vehicles are going to be up, but keep in mind that's not going to necessarily be because of normal consumer demand. That is really going to be more so inflated because the current way those vehicles exist right now will be going away. So it is still a sales, increase. It still counts, but it is just something to be aware of that, those figures are a little bit inflated for certain reasons. As for Chrysler brand, sales are up 14% in quarter two over quarter one. This is really interesting for Chrysler because they really only make one vehicle. It's just the Pacifica. So the fact we were able to see some sales increases on Chrysler, that's really, really interesting. Alfa Romeo, this is, a brand that they're investing heavily in, with things like the Tonale and things, they are really, really investing heavily into this and using this across their other brands. So the fact that Alfa Romeo grew 9% in quarter two of 2024 versus quarter one, it's always really, really good to see a sales growth like that. As for Fiat brand, one of their biggest launches is that 500e in quarter two. The 500e does exist in other places around the world. It's not necessarily the most practical vehicle. It's very low range, but it is a little bit more on the affordable side. So we'll have to see how that does, especially here in the United States, especially at what price point we can get it at. But we do have some growth there as well. Or we do have, in this case, a new product launch, so there will be some growth, but because we don't have, current benchmark right now, keep in mind that is a bit of an anomaly. As for Stellantis, 4 of the 5 top-selling plug-in hybrids in the U.S. were under their brand. So Jeep Wrangler 4xe, number 1. Number 2 was the Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe, number 2. Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid. This is a really, really big hitter for Chrysler. That was number 4. And number 5 was the Dodge Hornet. This is Dodge's newest model. It's the entry-level model. It's an SUV. very similar and shares a lot of powertrain components and a lot of just platform details and just bones with things like the Alfa Romeo Tonale. So this is a really, really big brand for, a really big vehicle for them. So the fact that they have out of, the 5 best-selling vehicles, for hybrids in the United States, plug-in hybrids at that matter, the fact that they dominate 4 of the 5 and the only one they don't have is number 3. Every single one is under their brand. That is really, really good for the portfolio. As for their inventory programs, they do have their summer cashback programs, so they are going to be kicking it off with up to $2,000 cash back. And then obviously we will see here the all-electric Grand Wagoneer S. We saw it last month, and this vehicle will be open for reservations on Jeep.com. But coming down to the bottom here, we do see though that FCA, their reported total sales, a solid number. They do own a lot of brands, but a solid number here. 344,993, so close to 350,000 vehicles in the second quarter of 2024. Despite that, though, 21% year-over-year sales, 21% decline. This is where, despite all of this, all these highlights we saw here, this is where this part of the video gets real, because despite all of these highlights here, it's really not looking, not necessarily bad, it's just not looking good. Clearly though, when you're selling this many vehicles right here, you're obviously not going to go out of business. So before I get into this, we are going to see some pretty concerning numbers here for Stellantis and how they could be in potentially some trouble, but I am not saying that they're going out of business at all. We're just going to go over the numbers, and I'm going to show that it is going to be a little tight for them. And despite that, like I said, they're not going out of business. They're still selling a ton of vehicles, but despite that, trouble can still lie ahead, and we are clearly going to see that right here. Because we're going to start off here with quarter 2 sales, so we're going to show our previous year one and our current year one. For the Compass, the Jeep Compass, for current year, 22,195. Last year in quarter 1, 28,083. So that is a minus 21% jump. And off the bat, that is not good, because when we look at the Jeep brand right here, other than 2 Jeep models, both which are very, very low selling units, so they really are anomalies. They don't really provide a lot. Every other brand, every other vehicle, every other model is negative. Some of them even negative by even more than 84%. So this is really not looking good at all. As for the Patriot, that vehicle has been gone for quite a while, so we got an anomaly on there. For the Wrangler, this is a big vehicle for Jeep. This has been one of the OGs. This is something that, when you say Jeep, you think of 2 things, either a Wrangler or Willys Jeep. So the fact that the Wrangler still selling a good amount of units, 38,896. However, last year almost selling just under 47,000 units, a 17% growth. That is not good at all. Coming over to the Gladiator, 10,000, almost 10,500 units this year, but last year still able to sell just under 14,000 units, 13,751. That is a 24%. And then we've got a huge one here. And this is for the Cherokee. 84% down. They sold 6,006 last year. This year, 9,069. That is a really, really stark number. There's a lot of reasons as to why that is happening, but that is not a number that you want to see. As for the Grand Cherokee, still selling a nice amount of units, 52,296 this year. But last year in quarter 1, they sold 70,454. So that is down 26%. As for the Renegade, just a little bit over 5,000 units last year. This year, just passing 1,500 units. That's down 69%. That is not looking good at all for the Jeep brand. When we look at the Wagoneer, we do have sales are up over 107%, about just a little bit over 8,000 last year. This year, almost 17,000. And we do see for the Grand Wagoneer jump 24% at just 3,224 last year. This year, 4,005. Coming down to the total here, though, the Jeep brand is down 19%. Last year, in this quarter, they would have made 181,284 vehicles sold. This year, 147,147. You don't always see the same numbers like that back to back, but that is considerably down. They are struggling 19%, and it just gets worse, honestly, because other than the Dodge brand and Fiat, which is really two anomalies just because of the amount of vehicles, like they barely sell 1,000 vehicles in a quarter, and just because they have so many new models, every other brand for Stellantis is down big time. As for coming to the Ram brand, and right now here we're going to start with the ProMaster. So this is going to be more so of our pro vehicles and things like that. But we can see sales here are down 26%. I mean, the ProMaster City is dead, 100% down, 100%. Last year 4,114, and this year only 7. Obviously, like I said, there are going to be anomalies on this list as vehicles are leaving, and there will be new vehicles. But 100%, even when a vehicle is leaving, that's not a number you want to see. For the ProMaster van, 20,200 last year. This year, 15,369. That is down 24%. I mean, looking at all three of these models right here, and just 23% down here, even for the for pickups and things. I mean, this is not a good number. These are not good numbers. Seeing Jeep is down 19%, seeing the Ram brand, down 26% here. And then when we come over here, we look at the Chrysler brand. We look at Ram pickups. Ram pickups did still pretty well, selling 90,109, but still down 23%. Last year they sold almost 120,000. We come to the Chrysler brand here. Obviously the 200 is gone. Last year they did sell a 200 though, just one. Obviously 200 is gone though, so there was 0. That's a 100% decrease. Obviously the 300 is on the way out. We know that. So that is a 53% decrease. Last year selling just over 4,200. This year we are just under 2,000, 2 units away. But this vehicle has already been retired and discontinued, so that number is not really going to matter. If anything, that number is only going to get worse. As for the Town and Country, that has been going for a very, very long time. So that is an anomaly. And then we have the biggest hitter. Even though we saw the highlights here in the notes for that specific vehicle, even down here looking at the Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid being number 4 in best-selling plug-in hybrids in the United States. Chrysler's best-selling vehicle, the Pacifica, 44,935 units last year. This year, in quarter to quarter, 37,768. That is a decrease of 16%. And when we look at the Chrysler brand, selling just under 40,000 units this year compared to the quarter last year where they sold just under 50,000 units, that is a decrease of 19%. When you have those numbers on your 3 most popular brands, because as we're going to see here, Dodge really, with all the vehicles they have, they're really not selling a lot of vehicles. They're selling some, but they're not selling a lot. Fiat, though, is pretty much doing nothing. Fiat and Alfa Romeo are just kind of here just to hang around. They're not selling any vehicles. These numbers really are almost pointless in a way. But when your biggest brands, your heavy hitters, or every single one is down, that's not good. That is not good at all. Coming to the Chrysler brand, and we've got a lot of anomalies here. The Dart and the Viper are gone. Obviously, the Viper at the end of its life was spun off and it's to its own brand, but the Dart and Viper are gone. I never was really a big fan of the Dart, but I was a decent fan of the Viper, so rest in peace to that. As for the Hornet, brand new model, that entry-level SUV that shares a lot of components and things with the Alfa Romeo. Last year's in quarter 2, 2,597. This year, 4,299. So This is a new vehicle that is growth. That is almost, I mean, that's considerable growth right there. The math on that would obviously be, you could argue, I mean, that's a lot of growth. That's over 50% growth. So that's really, really interesting to see that. As for the Charger, this is where it gets tough because the Charger and Challenger are on the way out. Obviously, we more than likely will see them as we have seen them in its electric form, but the ICE vehicles are gone. They're on the way out. This is the final curtain call. Because of that, even though they are down, I was trying to spin it positively, but it's down. 24,604 last year for the Charger. This year, 16,216. That's a decrease of 34%, and for the Challenger, a decrease of 11%. Almost 13,000 units last year. This year, almost at 11,500 units. So, rest in peace to both of those vehicles. It's tough to see that. The rest of these vehicles are anomaly. The Journey, the Caravan, all down 100%. Nothing to see there. And the Durango. 19,642 last year, 17,792 in this quarter. It's a decrease of 9%. And that's a big model because obviously the Charger and Challenger are on the way out. So these numbers are going to go down. So the Durango right now is the best-selling model in the lineup. For Durango sales, that's not good. We live in a time where it's all pickup trucks. It's all SUVs. It's all 4x4 vehicles. And the fact that the Durango is only selling that many units, that's just not good enough. And it's really, in this type of market, this vehicle should be selling at least 20, 30,000 units. At least. That is just not good enough. It just isn't. It really just is not good enough. And despite all of that, they're down 17%. Last year, at this time, 59,752 sales. This year, 49,787. So down 17%. So despite all the highlights, all the positivity and the enthusiasm that there was a bright horizon, it's not that bright. It's really honestly concerning and quite troubling. Coming down over here, we're at the Fiat brand. I'm going to be honest, this is an anomaly. The Fiat brand is up 119%. Last year, this time, they sold 144 vehicles. This year, they sold 316 vehicles. That is nothing. Okay? That is a meaningless stat. 316 vehicles in a month compared to what the rest of these brands are doing up here. This is a meaningless stat. So, for the 500, it's back. So, 16,000. 200%, almost a 7, we'll say close to 16,500% increase. $500 is gone, 500X is back, 7% increase. Like I said, 316 vehicles, up 119%. This is a meaningless stat. So, it's positive. It's good to see that the Fiat brand is positive, but when you're selling 316 vehicles in a quarter, like I said, it's meaningless, it's pointless. So, we're not really going to focus too much on that. Neither are we going to do really with too much with Alfa Romeo. We're going to go over it a little bit more just because they did actually crack a few thousand sales, but more or less the same story. The Giulia is one of my favorite cars. Really love it. I think it's a great looking sedan. I love it. 865 last year in the quarter. This year 656, down 24%. As for the 4C, this was one of my favorite cars. 2-door, super small, really nice, really nice engine, great amount of power. It was very agile. I really love the Alfa Romeo 4C. 100% down. They sold one last year. They didn't sell any this year. So rest in peace, because that was one of my favorite models. The Stelvio. This is one of their SUVs. 1,328 last year. This year in the quarter, for quarter two, 949. That is down 29%. And for the Tonale, something that the Dodge Hornet shares a lot of. 117 last year, 887 this year. It's a new model. So it's growth. It is growth. They essentially sold another, 700 units. But when you're a brand selling, even though you had growth, you sold 2,311 units last year. You sold 2,492 units this year. Is that nothing? No. You grew 8%. But when your brand is selling under 1,000 units, or even under, in this case, 3,000 units, is it a positive thing? Absolutely. Is it meaningful, though? Absolutely not. It just isn't. Even if you took these sales away, and by adding these here, these two brands growing, it did not help their case. These two brands growing did not provide any impactfulness to what happened up here. And if you took these brands away, we would still be saying the same thing. Because, like I said, when you're selling that many cars, which really isn't many, it's pointless. Hopefully those vehicles grow in sales and they will actually become something. However, looking at these brands here, they are growing. But look at every other brand here. 19% down, 26% down, 19% down, 17% down. The only two brands that were up were two brands, one that hasn't even sold 500 vehicles, one that hasn't even sold 3,000 vehicles, and they're very inflated numbers. So when you look at all of that and you're down 21%, I really hope Alfa Romeo and the Fiat brand grow. But we've got bigger issues on the horizon here. Because if you're Stellantis, these are new brands, right? Don't judge them too harshly. It's not good enough, though. But the biggest problem, your heavy hitters, the OGs, these are AAA, marquee, these are world famous brands. For Jeep, this is not good enough. That is unacceptable. In a time in the market, even though prices are high, these vehicles are still selling like crazy. When your brand is built to be an SUV, you're all about SUVs, that's literally what you are. Having this, every single vehicle pretty much down in sales, some of them even almost like 90%, this is not acceptable. That is not good enough. Sorry. Doesn't matter what the price point is. That is not good enough. For Ram, same thing. Pickups. This is the best time. There has never been a better time in automotive history these last few years to sell SUVs and pickups. These three. That's unacceptable. That is unacceptable. It's not good enough. Come down to the Chrysler brand here. What are we doing with Chrysler at this point? What are we doing? Genuinely. The 200 is gone. The 300 is gone. The Town and Country is gone. It's been gone for a while. Your only vehicle you have is a minivan. And it's still down. Whether you look at the plug-in or not, it's still down. So, really, Chrysler has one vehicle. And they're down. So really, they should only be down 16%. But, number one, unacceptable to have one vehicle in the lineup. Unacceptable. And these numbers as well. Unacceptable. That is not good enough. Chrysler, I've said this before. I've done these videos before on them. That you're in trouble. This Stellantis right now is in trouble. But Chrysler, Ram can hold their own with the pickup trucks. Jeep can still hold their own pretty well. They're down a lot, but they can still hold their own. Even Dodge. Dodge is part of the Chrysler situation as well. They're about to be. But this is not good enough. That is just not good enough. Let's come on down to Dodge. Similar story. Now, you have the new Hornet. Great. Let's hope that does well. As for the Charger and Challenger, we got to see what the future holds with electrification. Will people catch on to it? The Durango being down, though, come on. Like I said, that cannot be down. These numbers are unacceptable. You cannot have two of your marquee brands with only essentially two vehicles, one or even two vehicles. For Chrysler, it's just one vehicle. But to have a marquee brand, a AAA brand that is sold worldwide, and essentially sell two vehicles in the lineup. I don't care if you guys sell different models in other markets. To have one or two vehicles at a time in the lineup. Number one, that is unacceptable. The numbers are unacceptable, and that is just bad planning. So I don't know what's going on over there, but this is not looking good. And then we have some good news. But it doesn't really matter because it's two anomalies. Because if Stellantis, if you want to count good news as, oh, we had two brands that went positive. One didn't even sell 3,000 units. The other one didn't even sell 320 in the quarter. That's how you want to take that? Go ahead, I'm not going to stop you. But I'm very concerned. Because when you look at these numbers, all of this, all of that, all those highlights, absolutely meaningless. The only two things that were meaningful from this article was mentioned in two places. It was mentioned up here in the first headline, which is also something you don't necessarily want to do in the first headline. You don't want to tell people, oh, we had 4% growth year over year, but then we had 21% down year over year. That's not necessarily something you want to advertise right away, especially in the first line, just so you guys know. But same time, as if we didn't make it clear up here, as if that wasn't already starking enough, we have it right down here. A whole little paragraph. Not really a paragraph, it's like a sentence or two, but its own little section dedicated. And then you come here, and we see that things aren't just looking good. Stellantis is in serious trouble. There is a fire. There's an earthquake, a tsunami, whatever analogy you want to work with. Because man, oh man, are they in trouble. They're in trouble. You cannot have all of these vehicles going negative with two positive. It just doesn't work. That is going to do it for now. I hope when the next quarter 3 numbers come out, I hope to see more positive results. I really, really do. It's never good to see a car go out. Even if you don't like the car, it's never good to see it go out. It's never good to see competition go out. I really genuinely hope that, Stellantis is able to figure out. Because according to their awards, they should be doing fine. But that's going to do it for now. So, for all of you guys and girls who are watching, I'm looking. I see this video went to about 30 minutes. First of all, if you watched the entire video, I know this was a longer one. I really do appreciate you for making it to the end. This was probably the longest video we've done, so I really do appreciate you sticking around. Let me know what you guys and girls think down below of these numbers. That is going to do it for now. And like always, thanks for watching, everyone.